Hey everybody, so what I just wanted to go over today was how I make knife handles. And so I want to go over how I go from this knife blank right here to something like this. And these ones specifically have mosaic pins in them. This one has an elk and a buck. And then this one has a fisherman and a buck. And they're made out of rosewood handles. This one is hard maple. These two are two kitchen knives that I made up already. And this paring knife right here is about 3 3/4 long. And I'm going to make this one to kind of match these as an outdoors set. Or just to go along with an outdoors theme. These two are N690 steel. All these little ones here. These pocketable knives are N690. And this one is 4116 steel as well. And the pins I'm going to use for the paring knife are going to be an eagle. I think I'm going to put the mountain in the middle and the X's. Let me see if I can get that turned around. So we have an eagle, X's, and a mountain. So I'm going to use that combination for the paring knife, and I'm going to use rosewood. And this one specifically is 1/4 inch thick. All right, let's get started. So we're at the chop saw. I have it set to 90 degrees right now. First thing you want to do when looking at your wood is figuring out which side you want to go against the handle. This side is all wavy, pitted. I don't want this side to go against the handle because you can see the plane marks on it, and this is going to get sanded down anyways. Very smooth, as you saw on the other knives. So I want to use the already smooth edge to go up against the blade, so it creates a tight fit against the blade and you don't see any gaps. So one thing you want to think about when cutting your wood from the factory edge doesn't come nice. It comes it's not square or not the angle you want it. And so when you cut, you want to make sure that the side that you are going up against the blade is going to be up when you're cutting, because I'll show you actually right now. So I just made that cut. This side was up, and this side is nice and sharp now. When I flip it over, it's really hard to see, but this side has a bunch of tiny little marks in it. And so when this is up against the knife handle, the sharp edge won't show any gaps. But if you were to put it on the other edge, it'll show gaps. One thing you want to think about. So now I'm just going to mark how long I want them. I already have that. So after I cut the pieces on the chop saw, I glue them together so I can drill them on the drill press all through the knife blank, through these 3 holes. And these are 6mm holes, so that's what I'll be using, is a 6mm drill. So first, there we go. And all you need is 2 tiny little water droplet tabs. And then I flush up the side that's going to go up against the knife, up to the front of the knife, so they're flush when they're on the knife. And then just wait a few seconds for the super glue to dry. And I only want to use 2 little dabs like that because you want to be able to split them apart easily afterwards. So then once those are dry and stuck together, I do the same thing for the knife. I just put 2 little drops on the knife. You don't want too much because again, you got to be able to break them apart after they're drilled. Then you line up where you want the wood on your knife blank. So I go about halfway from the blade to where it meets the finger choil here. And then I also leave a little metal hanging down below it. I just let that dry for a few seconds, and then I will drill them. So now you have 3 holes perfectly lined up and the fronts are perfectly flush. And I'm even a little bit off, so I'll probably just pop the knife off. And I didn't let it fully dry, so I can just pop the knife off. And then I'll sand them down on the belt sander so they are perfectly flush. Shoot, I got burn marks. I don't want that. I'm just going to switch to sandpaper. Good, but now I have a lot of scratch marks. So I'm going to step it down from my 80 grit to 120. Now to 400. Let's finalize getting rid of all the scratches. There we go, and now it's flush and smooth. That's what we want, because it's harder to work on that after it's on the knife. Okay. So my next step is I line the knife back up on the wood with the holes. And then here's where we start to shape it. So I trace the wood and make the line as dark as I possibly can. Probably could even use a needle nose or a fine point Sharpie on this. So it's a little difficult to see, but I have it traced. And this is the part where I'm going to give my disclaimer. Just because I do it doesn't mean it's the right way to do it, and I'm not saying it's safe. But now I read neck together my the belt or the bandsaw onto the table. All right, good. And I follow the trace lines. So during editing, I didn't like how the initial one turned out, so I'm going to show you what I do on a different angle. What I'm going to do is go in straight to the line. I have a line drawn here to trace the knife blank. So I'm going to go straight in here to cut relief cuts. So when I'm cutting along these curves, the pieces of wood will fall off as I'm going, and it'll take pressure off the blade. And this is the setup I'm using. It's not a stand bandsaw. It's just a portable bandsaw, but this is what I have to work with, and I make it work. So I'm going to show you how I shape the knife handle with this. All right, let's go. Now we have more or less the general shape of the knife, so we have to do a lot less sanding afterwards. Now I pop them apart. And just like that, we have our two scales. Now for the messy part, the epoxy. So these are, okay, so these two might be epoxied. And we use equal parts. I just use baby weld. I don't know if it's a special high heat or anything. It's just a clear weld is what I use. 5 minutes set time. Equal parts, what you think will be enough to get enough coverage, and then you mix them together very well. And then I typically put a healthy coating on. Complete coverage. Eagle pin. Which order do I want to go in? Let's go mounds in the middle, axes up toward to the back of the handle, and then I'll do the eagle up towards the front. Okay, 3 pins are in. So now I grab, where did I put them? Right here. Now I grab my pliers and I just make sure all the pins are straight and the way I want them. So that's going to be the order of the pins right there. They look pretty straight. And now I clamp it together. Probably should have grabbed clamps beforehand. three are tightened. Now I will give that about 24 hours, at least 24 hours to dry. So now that the epoxy is dry, it's been actually, you only have to wait 24 to 48 hours for it to cure, but it's actually really been 2 weeks. I haven't been able to get into the shop since then. So now that it is plenty dry, we're going to remove the excess pins, and here's how I do that. But first, to remove all the clamps. And I'm going to wrap it in painter's tape, the blade, to cover up the blade so it A, protects the blade and it protects me, obviously. Now you can even cover up and protect the blade sooner in the process, but this is where I typically start covering it for the sanding purposes, for the sanding portion. And now it looks like I need more painter's tape. So here I just use a vibrating saw. We call it a zippy, but I think it's actually called the vibrating saw. And that's what I use to take off the mosaic pins, take off the excess. So. Now that the excess pin is removed, we get to the fun part, the blade shaping part. And I realize this is going to be a longer video as it is now, so I think I'm going to make this into 2 parts. So, so far, if you are interested in any kitchen knives like this, or even everyday carry knives, I will include the link to my Etsy shop and eBay page in the description of this video.